Welcome to the President and CEO Focus on the Middle Market podcast series, where President and CEO founder Paul Stukel discusses middle market issues with business leaders from across the nation. Today, Paul speaks with Bobby Umar, co-founder and CEO of Toronto-based leadership training company Raeallan, about leadership, unhappy employees, and the importance of social media to the CEO.
Well, let's start with talking about you. Can you give us a quick rundown of your history? I mean, you've been an engineer, you've been very many things.
Yeah, so basically I went to McGill University to do an engineering degree, and I was there for, a fantastic time in my life, and then I worked in engineering for 4 years. Wasn't really fulfilled, kind of bored. So while I was there, I started my own musical theater company, started producing and directing musicals, and was like, hey, you know what, I kind of love promoting, and I love entertainment, so, maybe I should switch careers and go into entertainment, production, film, television, that type of thing. So I did my MBA originally to try to get into the entertainment marketing field or production field. And so I did my MBA at DeGroote School of Business, and while I was there, that was a fantastic time compared to my undergrad where I, failed miserably. But in my MBA, things went really well. I was valedictorian. I was a class president. I totally kicked ass. And after I did that, I worked in brand marketing for Kraft and Dove, Unilever. And I found that nice, and it was a lot of fun, but I also found it kind of not as fulfilling because, I was working so hard for the man, and, I kind of wanted to be the man. And I was working, 68 hours a week and kind of giving up my life. And I was like, I'm transferring my blood and my sweat and my expertise and my time, and I'm getting, a paycheck, which I think is limited, and I'm getting, perceived security and benefits, because they could have fired me anytime. And I was like, I need to leave. So I left the brand marketing world after 4 years, and then also while I was there, actually, I was performing and training with Second City and honing in on my entertainment abilities. So I was doing a lot of sketch comedy and performance and things like that. And so then I left and I started my own company, Raeallan. And I started Raeallan about 7 years ago. I've been doing it, and basically it's all about personal training, public speaking, motivational talks, and keynotes and things like that. And also, while I was there, I also joined a sketch comedy troupe, and I started performing sketch comedy. So I kind of was doing both of them hand in hand. And then once I had kids, I really focused my energy on my business. It's kind of, I've basically dabbled in performance, I've dabbled in engineering, and I've dabbled in brand marketing. But now, really, it's all focused and culminated into what I do with Raeallan.
Can you give me some examples of what Raeallan does in sort of a specific sense?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, I start with the why. And so, Simon Sinek with his TED Talk, he said, start with the why. Our why is there are lost leaders everywhere. And so the idea here is that everywhere I go, I meet people of all ages, whether they're young people or people with 10-year careers, 20-year careers, or 40-year careers, and they feel lost. They feel lost in their profession. They feel lost in their career. They feel lost personally, professionally, academically. And so I'm trying to address that need. And our mission at Raeallan is essentially to discover, inspire, and develop leadership in Gen Y and Gen X leaders. I believe every person is a leader, has the capacity to adopt leadership as part of their lifestyle. And my job is to empower them through all the stuff that I do. And all the stuff that I do, number one, I'm a professional speaker. So I basically, I've spoken at TEDx 4 times, and I do executive education training. But I basically am a professional speaker. I'll do keynotes at events, at conferences, at corporations, at schools. But I also do, I'll do workshops as well. I've also done a couple of coaching stints. But for the most part, everything that I do for that mission is through content. Content is speaking. Content is blog posts, articles, tweets. Content is events. Every year I host a conference called Discover Your Personal Brand, and we run that conference, and then through that, again, everything aligns back to the mission. And so, we go into companies and we help them, develop tools and infrastructure and systems to help them engage people in the workplace to become better leaders.
Now, and then that sort of raises the next question. What kind of things in the process of your interactions with companies, what kind of things do you see day to day? I mean, what are the issues that sort of jump out at you, having done this many times, that are either inhibiting people from sort of getting to their potential from a leadership perspective, or in terms of team functionality or things like that. What are the issues that you see these days? What's the dysfunctionality, I guess?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the leadership dynamic, 2.0 has changed. There's a paradigm shift between, leaders being just people who tell people what to do, and really it's not about management anymore. It's about investing in the people, investing in the team. So a lot of leadership, one of the big leaderships is people want to feel invested in. I mean, there was a Deloitte & Touche study that said that 74% of people were either dispassionate or unhappy with their work or their jobs. That's a huge chunk of people. And we have to ask why that is. Most of the time because they don't feel fulfilled. And when you look at entrepreneurs who, started their own companies, and, these mid-level CEOs, they started because they wanted to make a difference and be in control and have autonomy. Yet there's always employees who don't feel that same way, yet they wish they could. And so the whole idea of leadership now is that people want to feel invested. They want to feel secure. They want to feel that the company, is interested in them and supports them and will develop them. So for the most part, a lot of companies, the number one priority of any company is the bottom line. And, people is certainly something that, rises up to number 4, number 3, number 2. But the good companies are the ones that put it up near the top, like number 2. And if you invest in people and you invest in their leadership development, that'll eventually help your organization grow as well. That's one thing. The second thing is, just the whole idea about change and growth. I mean, the best companies and the best teams out there are able to change and grow with the times. They're able to innovate and see what most people can't see. I mean, if you want, it's either adapt or die. So you have to be able to see what other people can't see and be able to change. So how do companies create an environment or a culture that's all about investing in change, allowing for growth, even embracing failure? I think that to me is an important piece. Moving on to the team functionality aspect, I mean, one of the big things that I like to focus on is what I call the XY gap. So, boomers are retiring, and so now you're going to have Generation X people who are going to be the leaders, and you have a bunch of Generation Y people or millennials who are coming up the pipeline, and they're going to make the majority of the workforce. And there's a gap in values and understanding between these two different parties. And so for me, I think that's a big issue that's coming out in terms of how teams will function. And some of the Gen Y leaders are turning into, some of them are, early 30s, so they're turning into some of the big CEO leaders already. And so now you have Gen X people working for Gen Y people, and this gap, I think, is going to be a big issue in the next 5-10 years in a huge way. The other issue is diversity, because there's a diversity of thought and diversity of culture and the diversity of different ethnicities. That's changing the political climate in the United States is also at play all throughout the world, because people are either embracing diversity or they're trying to be exclusive of diversity. So companies need to figure out a way to encourage, embrace it without being exclusionary. So diversity, I think, to me is a big piece. And the other big thing with team functionality and also leadership is, adopting and addressing the bold aspect of social media. Social media, from my perspective, is the new email. It is how everyone communicates. It's how everyone keeps in touch. It's how everyone connects. It's how people exchange information. And so, back in the early 90s when people were, trying really hard, including myself, to avoid getting an email address. I don't need an email. I'll just call people. And that's what I would do. I was like, I'll call, I'll visit them. And next thing you know, I was out of the loop on everything: professional events, personal events, political events, birthdays, weddings, and social media. Like, companies need to figure out a way to allow people to embrace it, to adopt it, even leverage it. Maybe leverage tools and protocols that are actually beneficial to their business, whether they're B2B or B2C. And so, to me, social media is a huge part of how teams can function more dynamically. But also, it's a part of how we can keep teams happy and progressive.
All right. So you're talking to a middle market CEO. You're talking to a guy who is running a $500 million steel manufacturing company that has about 4 locations, and he's a little worn down. He's been doing the same thing for a long time, and he's just not growing. He's not confident in the young folks that are coming up. What do you say to him? What do you say to him to help him? I mean, what's your pitch to him?
I would say that 74% of people are either unhappy or dispassionate about their jobs. So you have to think about how many people in your company are feeling the exact same way, and are you, as a leader, addressing those issues that they really care about? Because if you don't know what they care about, whether you don't know from a generational standpoint or from a cultural standpoint or from just an experience and leadership standpoint, then that's a huge opportunity for you to address, because if you address that issue head on and you show leadership by investing in your people, you will take your company gangbusters to embrace innovation, to embrace growth, and retain people for the long term.
Be sure to check back for future episodes of the President and CEO Focus on the Middle Market podcast series. Thanks for listening.